A big moment here at the NYSE. Wilfred Frost, he rang the opening bell earlier this hour, and he is behind a 6-part documentary called David Frost Versus, diving into his father's famous interviews with Richard Nixon, as well as Muhammad Ali and the Beatles. Wilf, it's great to see you back here at the New York Stock Exchange. We missed you.
Kristen, it's a pleasure to be back. Such a thrill to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, our viewers know you from the many years that you spent at the anchor desk at CNBC, but this is a big project you've been working on as well, of course, preserving your father's legacy. What more can you tell us about this series?
So it premieres on MSNBC on Sunday, the 27th of April, and it's 6 weeks, 6 episodes, because what I didn't want to do was just a one-off piece on Dad. I think Dad understood better than most that the interview is about the guest, not about the host. And so I had that thought running through my mind with every moment of making this show. And given the extraordinary 10,000 plus interviews that he did, we had the ability, instead of doing a film about him, but to do a series about 6 moments in history where he had a particularly unique front row seat. And I think the result is re-examining crucial moments in our recent history, but in a deeper and more personal way than perhaps has been done before, because Dad had those connections with those people you just mentioned.
What was this process like for you, Wilf, putting this together at the 6-part series?
I mean, it's been the ultimate, professional privilege of my life because it's about Dad, and he gave me so much, and I wanted to repay him and try and do his legacy justice, which I think we've just about done. But, on top of that, even if it wasn't about Dad, this would have been a privilege. As a journalist, to have access to this treasure trove, really, of history, and to try and bring it back to life has been a really, really rewarding process. And again, we didn't just pick the moments where he had a front row seat. We picked the moments which will hopefully resonate a lot today. And, time after time, when I watched the archive originally, and I think when people watch these episodes, your jaw just sort of hits the floor, because this isn't just any old archive show. I think there's so many conversations that people will feel like are happening today as well.
What are some of the most memorable moments to you in putting this together? And of course, probably having a front row seat yourself for many years.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some epic kind of celebratory moments in episode 1 in the middle. I don't know if, well, I didn't know this, so you probably don't know this, but until I came across it. But Hey Jude was introduced to the world on the Frost program in London in 1968. So we have the debut of that song, which is just this wonderful, euphoric high point in the middle of episode 1, which is David Frost versus the Beatles. On the music point as well, an extraordinary performance from Elton John 10 years before Diana died of Candle in the Wind, with Diana in the audience, which hasn't been seen since. And that's a really, emotional moment. But, I think, as you know, I'm a news guy, and so the political stuff really appeals to me. And I think episode 6, David Frost versus the Middle East, is really powerful. At one point, remarkable, Dad's ability to bring both sides together. He had Rabin and Arafat on the same show, which is just nuts to think of today, given how polarized everything is. And look, David Frost versus Richard Nixon, episode 4, I think is going to be very powerful, particularly in light of what's going on today.
What do you think your father would make of what is transpiring today in America, in the UK, and really around the world?
People ask me that, and I almost think they're expecting me to say, God, he'd lament. And I think in terms of domestic politics, I don't know that he would lament purely. I think he would actually see a great opportunity, because he did have this unique ability to bring both sides together. And as polarizing as things are today, I think he would have still continued to do that. He would have had both presidential candidates for a long interview with one person that they both remarkably felt they could trust to get a fair but tough hearing. I think that the one which would devastate him, I think, goes beyond domestic polarization, is the Middle East. I think he cared massively about that as a topic. He came back to it every single one of the 5 decades he operated in. And when he died in 2012, it wasn't as bad as it is now. Maybe peace wasn't close, but I think he'd be devastated and heartbroken to see where that is at the moment.
What does it mean to you that this series is debuting soon?
I'm so excited, because it's been I will say the most unbelievable amount of work. And, I have quite a busy day job on top of that, doing the breakfast show on Sky News. But, it's all worth it for moments like this. Because, what I cared about was trying to celebrate Dad's legacy. And I think we've done that. So it's a very rewarding feeling. The feedback has been phenomenal. Ron Howard came to our screening here in New York on Friday night, and he said he thought it was spectacular. That is a wonderful moment for me. I hope millions of people here in America will feel the same when it comes out on the 27th of April on MSNBC. And, you have sort of peak moments of feeling like that, and ringing the bell was certainly one of them.
Wilfred, congratulations. We're rooting for you. We know you're across the pond now, but it's so great to see you back here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Kristen, it's always a pleasure to be back here, particularly talking to you. Thanks so much for having me.
And we'll be watching the series, indeed, April 27th. You heard it from Wilf, a 6-part documentary series, David Frost Versus, diving into some of the journalist's most famous interviews. As Wilf just shared, that premiere episode, 9 p.m. Eastern on MSNBC on April 27th.